The first intermediate period of ancient Egypt, sometimes known as the Dark Ages, lasted for around 125 years. The Dark Ages of ancient Egypt was a time of anarchy, turmoil, and conflict, and we'll discuss the horrifying mysteries of that period. The downfall. Let's discuss one of the events that occurred soon before ancient Egypt entered its first intermediate era to begin this list. It is significant to remember some of the reasons why the Old Kingdom fell, and this time of chaos and upheaval resulted. Pepi II, the final pharaoh of the 6th dynasty, had an extraordinary long reign, which is one of the reasons frequently stated. His rule began when he was a little child, and it is thought that he may have lived into his 90s, which is extraordinary in itself. The Nile. For the ancient Egyptians, the Nile overflowing was a moment of great significance. For them, it is a very significant cycle that was once observed for 2 weeks each year. The overflowing of the Nile, which was crucial to their way of life, is believed to have decreased or even possibly disappeared during the Intermediate Era due to the drier environment, which is supposed to have put ancient Egypt and its people at risk of a horrific famine. Lower crop yields caused by the dry environment and the absence of the Nile would have had a big effect on people living in the area of the time. Disorganization. The absence of order inside the kingdom is the reason this transitional period is frequently referred to as the Dark Ages. As we said in the first section, a priest and a historian from the Ptolemaic era named Manetho would talk about 70 monarchs who ruled for 70 days. This is perhaps a bit sarcastic and an exaggeration, but it's supposed to demonstrate how disorganized the leadership situation was at the time. Due to the lack of information regarding the actual leaders during this time, the era is sometimes neglected while discussing leadership. Artifacts. Although there isn't much information available about the 7th and 8th dynasties, a few intriguing items have been discovered there that are thought to date from the time. Scarabs that are thought to have belonged to Neferkare, the 2nd of the 7th dynasty, have been discovered. A green jasper cylinder was also found, and it is thought to date from the 8th dynasty. King Eb of the 8th dynasty even built a little pyramid at Saqqara, which has been located. While we have discovered these things, the positions of some of the rulers from this period are still unknown. It is also feasible that we won't ever discover the whereabouts of some of these monarchs. No monarchs. The rise of the provincial no-monarch was another issue that significantly contributed to the demise of the ancient kingdom and the entry into the more challenging era. A nomarch was a regional governor in ancient Egypt. Since the nation was divided into 42 district provinces known as nomes, a government official would be in charge of each one. The position of nomarch had become hereditary, as the first intermediate era was approaching, which of course meant that only one family was likely to keep the office and the power for quite a long time. This naturally meant that these families would only grow stronger and more influential within their nome, which left them becoming more independent from their overall rule. These nomarchs were standing to build their tombs and their armies, which of course led to conflict with those around them. This led to increased tensions as well as armed conflict. The buffer zone. A strong and prosperous province called Suet and Asut existed inside the Heracleopolitan Empire and grew to prominence during the otherwise difficult period. From this reign, a new dynasty of nomarchs emerged, and they had cordial relations with the rulers of Lower Egypt. This was revealed to us by the inscriptions on their tombs. These inscriptions provide a glimpse into political climate during their reigns, and they mention this line of nomarchs as having dug canals, cut taxes, reaped abundant crops, raised herds of livestock, and maintained an army and fleet. The upper rulers. We briefly discussed the people then in power in Lower Egypt. What about Upper Egypt then? The nomarch of tribes, Enderfer, who is also known as the keeper of the door in the south, is claimed to have been ancestor of the Theban monarchs. It's common knowledge that Nenef was responsible for setting up Upper Egypt to function as an independent government from the south. Nevertheless, it doesn't seem as though he ever attempted to usurp the throne for himself. The attack on northern Egypt was started by Intef II, and it was finished by Intef III, leaving him to start the invasion of the Middle East and attack the Lower Egypt. The first 3 rulers of the 11th dynasty, who were all named Intef, would later succeed one another as the final 3 rulers of the first during the interim period. The Middle Kingdom. There was a great deal of violence as a result of the political upheaval and struggle for control. It is believed that temples were pillaged before the armed fight. Sculptures had been destroyed and statues of many kings had been vandalized. A dynasty of monarchs known as the Mentuhotep succeeded the Inefs after their rule. The monarch who would finally overthrow the kings and rulers of Lower Egypt is the second in this line. This was significant because it signaled a change in ancient Egypt. The defeat signaled the country's unification, the continuation of the 11th dynasty, and the entry of Egypt into the Middle Kingdom period.